are many places with unique traditions, but few know that in one of the most extreme regions on the planet, there is a place where women do not bathe, men can have several wives, and they can even offer them to visitors as a sign of hospitality. In this new video from Uncensored World, we are going to learn about Namibia, one of the most extreme and at the same time fascinating countries on Earth. The country of the famous Himba tribe, renowned for their beauty, for smearing their bodies with red clay, building houses with dung, and for a way of life that is unique in the world, allowing men to live with many wives, lighting schools with water bottles and cooking with ovens made of earth and dung. A corner with unique curiosities such as containing the oldest desert with the highest dunes on the planet, some over 300 meters high, in an atmosphere worthy of ghost movies, with petrified trees, ghost towns, and the famous Skeleton Coast, a desolate and dangerous desert that we will soon discover. Pay attention, and don't miss this video. You'll soon find out whether or not you can refuse a form of hospitality that is unique in the world. Let's get started. Namibia, officially known as the Republic of Namibia, is a country located in southwestern Africa. Its capital and largest city is Windhoek, which has almost 400,000 inhabitants and pulsates with an energy very different from the immense silence of the deserts and wild dunes that make up the rest of the country. Its streets are home to German colonial architecture, Herero craft markets, and music that flows from bars and cafes where life mixes at a relaxed, almost hypnotic pace. This is because Namibia was a German colony between 1894 and 1915 under the name of German Southwest Africa. During this period, settlers founded cities, towns, and mining settlements that still leave their mark on the country's architecture and culture today. Some of these places, such as Kolmanskop, are now ghost towns covered by desert sand, which we will discover later in this video. Be that as it may, this German influence still persists, as German is still one of the most widely spoken languages in Namibia, especially in education, business, and tourism. There are even African communities, including some Himba, who use German terms or phrases in their daily lives, a reflection of this colonial past that can still be seen in certain traditions, street names, and cultural festivals. The name Namibia comes from the oldest desert in the world, which is found in this region, known as the Namib Desert, covering a large part of the country. Namibia gained its independence from South Africa in 1990, and has been a democratic republic ever since. In addition, this desert boasts of being one of the most beautiful deserts on the planet, with red sand dunes, which are said to be due to the pigments carried by the wind from the interior. From the red Kalahari Desert, one of the greatest treasures of this desert is the famous Dune 45. This colossal dune, famous and known as Dune 45 because of its location 45 kilometers from the main camp of Namib Naukluft Park, rises majestically to a height of approximately 170 meters. From the top of Dune 45, you can enjoy breathtaking views of the Namibian desert. At sunrise, the light turns the sand into a palette of reds and oranges that changes every minute, a spectacle that many travelers describe as almost unreal. But Dune 45 is not the highest in the country. Ingenuity is the Big Daddy Dune, considered one of the highest dunes on the planet, rising above 380 meters. Climbing it is a physical challenge, but the reward is extraordinary. From its summit, you can see the Namib Sand Sea and the famous dry valley of Deadvley, where the skeletons of ancient petrified trees contrast with the intense orange of the sand. Something that few people know and even fewer are lucky enough to discover is that many of these dunes sing. When the wind causes the fine sand to slide, it produces a vibration that generates a low sound, like a natural organ. This phenomenon, known as singing dunes or roaring dunes, is best heard on days with a constant breeze and has inspired legends among local communities, who interpret it as the voice of the desert itself. In terms of population, Namibia has an estimated population of around 2.5 million, with ethnic diversity that includes groups such as the Himba, Herero, Nama, and Awambo, among others. To get an idea of its immensity, Namibia covers more than 825,000 square kilometers, a size similar to Pakistan or slightly smaller than Venezuela, but with such a low population density that it seems like an almost empty country. It is the second least densely populated country on the planet, surpassed only by Mongolia. Much of this scarcity of inhabitants can be explained by the fact that it is located in one of the most arid and extreme regions on Earth. Temperatures above 50 degrees Celsius have been recorded in areas of the Namib Desert, and there are places where years can go by without a single drop of rain, such as the isolated Skeleton Coast, which you will learn about later. Its geography is varied and includes the Namib Desert, arid plains, plateaus, as well as Etosha National Park, famous for its abundant wildlife. Namibia is known for its unique biodiversity and breathtaking landscapes, which attract tourists from all over the world, making it one of the most fashionable countries in recent decades. Probably Namibia's main attraction is that it is home to one of the most famous and recognizable tribes on the planet, the Himba tribe. The Himba are an indigenous ethnic group that resides mainly in the arid northern region of Namibia, in the Kunene region. In the arid and challenging land of northwestern Namibia, this ethnic group has perfected a culture that balances a unique aesthetic with survival, showing that beauty can flourish even in the most inhospitable environments, and that this beauty can also help them improve their quality of life. If you would like to get to know this tribe, it is good to know that the journey to the lands of the Himba is a challenge in itself. From the town of Apuo, the regional capital, travelers must face hours of travel on dirt roads that wind through desert landscapes and rocky mountains. These roads are often impassable during the rainy season, which exacerbates the community's isolation. Only all-terrain vehicles are capable of overcoming the natural obstacles of the terrain, limiting access to Himba settlements to those willing to endure the hardships of the journey. This geographical isolation has had a dual impact on the Himba community. On the one hand, it has been a blessing, allowing the Himba to keep their traditions, beliefs, and way of life virtually intact over the centuries. This tribe is famous worldwide for its distinctive clothing and body decoration, which includes applying a mixture of red clay and animal fat to the skin and hair. This practice not only serves aesthetic purposes, but also protects their skin from the scorching sun and insects common in this arid region. In addition, both Himba men and women wear elaborate jewelry and traditional hairstyles that reflect their unique cultural identity. In addition to their distinctive appearance, the Himba are known for their social structure and cultural practices. They follow a communal way of life based on family clans led by a tribal chief. Among their most controversial traditions is polygamy, a common practice among members of this tribe, whereby men can have multiple wives. What's more, one of the greatest symbols of power and wealth in this tribe is the fact of having more than one wife, a fact that has much to do with the continuity of the community and the family, as it strengthens the ties between different families and clans, contributing to the social cohesion of the tribe while ensuring better harvests and greater ease, since more offspring means more time and ease in managing family tasks. In this tradition, the Himba are also known for their peculiar system of selecting wives, as in this culture, women cannot choose their husbands, but are selected by the men themselves and their families. This choice is based on a series of specific criteria, such as the woman's ability to perform domestic and agricultural tasks, her ability to raise children, and her reputation in the community. In addition to these practical criteria, physical beauty also plays an important role in the selection of wives among the Himba. A woman's appearance is valued, including the quality of her skin, the symmetry of her face, and her ability to perform the tribe's traditional body decoration. Himba women are known and recognized worldwide for their beauty, and even more so for their distinctive style of dress and adornment, which includes applying a mixture of red clay and animal fat to their skin and hair, as well as wearing elaborate jewelry and traditional hairstyles. To protect themselves from the heat and sun, the Himba have for centuries covered themselves with a mixture of cow fat and red ochre, which acts as a protective layer against the elements and gives them this unique and beautiful appearance. But perhaps the custom that most surprises those who know the mysteries of this beautiful tribe is the borrowing of wives, known to them as wife hospitality, a gesture of hospitality and respect whereby, if a guest, stranger, or friend of the family visits, the husband can offer the company of his wife or wives to spend the night, which is consensual and considered a symbol of trust between men. Before going into detail about this practice, let's learn about other unique curiosities of this ethnic group, which will give you a better understanding of the reason for this wife lending. Among them, one of the most surprising curiosities for those lucky enough to visit the Himba is the way they build their houses. The construction of Himba houses is a fascinating example of ingenuity and adaptability in an environment as unforgiving as the Kolonial desert. These dwellings, known as Himba, are made mainly from dung and mud, materials that at first glance may seem unusual for construction. However, in the context of the arid landscape, these elements are transformed into a surprisingly effective combination. Manure, collected from livestock, is mixed with mud and used to form thick layers of cladding that provide a natural barrier against extreme heat and sandstorms. The construction technique is as old as the Himba culture itself, and is performed with a mastery that has been perfected over generations. The houses are built in the shape of domes, with a central structure of branches and sticks that is covered with a mixture of manure and mud. This coating is applied in successive layers, each carefully dried in the sun before the next is applied. The final layer is polished to a smooth, even surface that not only provides protection, but also reflects the sunlight in a way that seems almost magical in the desert environment. This technique is not only functional, but also aesthetically distinctive, giving the dwellings a unique appearance that blends harmoniously with the landscape. The construction process for these houses also involves a deep understanding of the properties of natural materials and climate-adapted architecture. Manure, rich in nutrients and with insulating properties, helps keep the interior cool during the day and warm at night, an essential requirement in an environment with large temperature fluctuations. This construction method reflects an impressive symbiosis between the Himba people and their environment, demonstrating an intuitive understanding of available resources and extreme climatic conditions. In addition to their functionality, dung and mud dwellings have a significant cultural component. Each house is an extension of the family home, adorned with designs and patterns that tell stories and symbolize the identity of the clan. The decorations on the mud coating are usually made by the women of the family, turning each home into a living work of art that reflects the pride and tradition of the Himba community. Another surprising feature of this tribe is that they never shower, not because they don't want to, but because of the nature of their geography. In Namibia, water is so scarce and valuable that when it rains, it is better to store this precious resource for other needs such as hydration. In the arid and dry territory of the Himba, rainfall is scarce and rivers are non-existent, which is why the concept of hygiene is surprisingly adapted to the harsh conditions of the environment. Since water is such a limited resource here, the Himba have developed a unique method of personal hygiene that does not require water. Instead of bathing as in other cultures, the Himba use a technique that involves smoke. To perform this cleansing ritual, members of the tribe light a fire using cow fat and a mixture of aromatic herbs. They then lie on the embers to expose themselves to the smoke that emanates, allowing it to penetrate their skin and clothing, leaving them imbued with a distinctive aroma and a natural protective layer. This process not only cleanses them effectively, but also provides protection against insects and other elements of the environment. The use of smoke also has a significant cultural dimension, as the ritual of smoking oneself with aromatic herbs is a tradition deeply rooted in the daily life of the Himba. This method of grooming reflects an ingenious adaptation to environmental constraints, and highlights the Himba people's ability to use available resources in innovative ways. Furthermore, cow fat and aromatic herbs not only serve a practical function, but are also associated with ceremonial and cultural identity aspects, which again highlights the Himba's connection to their ancestral traditions. It may sound strange that the tribe recognized as the most beautiful in Africa does not shower or wash with water, but this is the case, and surely this technique used by this society may have something to do with it. Another aspect that makes their women more beautiful is their adornments. In this society, Himba women are an example of the richness and complexity of the tribe's visual culture. To achieve this and feel beautiful, the Himba adorn themselves with an impressive variety of jewelry made of metal and cowrie shells, a marine mollusk native to this area. These adornments are not mere accessories but have a profound meaning within the community. The number of anklets a woman wears indicates how many children she has had, serving as a kind of visible record of her fertility and status within the tribe. In addition, during puberty, young girls wear plastic belts, which they then exchange for metal belts after their first menstruation, marking their transition to adulthood. These details not only enhance their beauty, but also tell personal and community stories, reflecting important aspects of their lives and social position within the group. Now that you know more about this society, it's time to discover the most controversial tradition of the Himba. In Himba culture, wife lending is a practice that reflects both hospitality and complex social dynamics within the community. This system, although it may seem unusual from an outside perspective, is rooted in deep cultural traditions. Essentially, when a Himba man has important visitors, such as travelers or members of other tribes, he is offered the opportunity to lend his wife or wives to the visitor as a sign of respect and welcome. This practice not only underscores the importance of interpersonal relationships and reciprocity in Himba culture, but also serves to strengthen ties between different families and groups. The act of lending a wife does not necessarily imply a transfer of ownership or a loss of status for the man offering her. Rather, it is seen as an act of generosity and trust, which can facilitate the establishment of commercial or political relationships between the Himba and visitors. During the time the wife remains with the visitor, she is expected to behave respectfully, and the exchange is handled with care to ensure that all parties involved feel valued and respected. Furthermore, this practice reinforces the position of women as a symbol of prestige and status within the tribe, as their company is considered a valuable cultural gift. Wife lending also reflects a particular view of the role of women in Himba society. Although the system may seem controversial, women have a significant and respected role in decision-making related to these exchanges. The wife's participation and consent are essential, and her well-being and dignity are paramount in the process. This aspect of wife lending underscores the complexity of gender relations in Himba culture, where traditional practices coexist with a deep respect for women's autonomy and value within the community. At this point, we would like to ask you, with everything you now know, would you spend the night with one or more Himba women? Would you sleep in their homes, or could you get used to washing without using water? What has surprised you most about this culture? Pause the video and leave us your comment. You know that doing so is the best way to support us, and it will be very fun and interesting to read your comments. So, thank you. Apart from all these curiosities, it's good to know that Himba society makes great use of ingenuity. Every society solves problems with the resources it has at hand. And just as in the first world we solve almost everything with money, in these African villages they need to solve problems with two of the few resources they have available: time and ingenuity. This is how Himba villages have lighting systems that are unique in the world, such as bottles filled with water embedded in the roofs of schools to provide light inside them. In this ingenious way, they can keep the rooms cool and well lit, as few tribes in this country have access to electricity, let alone cooling systems. This creative use of available resources is characteristic of the Himba culture, which has developed a series of ingenious techniques and devices to adapt to its arid and sparsely populated environment. Another example of this is the use of clay ovens, known as bee ovens, which are used to cook food and bake bread in Himba communities. These ovens are built from clay and animal dung and are an integral part of daily life in Himba villages, providing an efficient and sustainable way to cook food. Those who travel to these villages can enjoy a unique cultural experience, and later in this video, you will learn about recommended routes for visiting the Himba with respect. It is important to know that, within their traditions, there is the so-called hospitality of the wife, an ancestral custom in which a host may offer the company of his wife to a male guest as a symbol of trust and welcome. Although for the Himba, it does not imply an obligation, nor does it have the connotation that a Western visitor might imagine. It is something that greatly surprises tourists who are not familiar with their customs. Therefore, it is advisable to receive these demonstrations with courtesy, explain any discomfort kindly, and always act with respect towards their culture and decisions. But in addition to the Himba, Namibia is famous for its unique and fascinating places. Among them, Death Valley is one of the most photographed spots, and one of the places that attracts the most attention, both from tourists and anyone who comes to this place. This valley, known as Deadvlei, seems to come from another world. There, in the middle of the red dunes of the Namib, lies a plain of whitish clay where the dark remains of ancient acacia trees stand. Their twisted, lifeless trunks stand out like natural sculptures against the sunlit horizon. The scene is mesmerizing, a ground so light that it reflects light like a mirror, surrounded by walls of red sand that rise toward the sky. The trees, dead for nearly 900 years, have remained intact thanks to the absolute aridity. They do not rot, they do not fall, they simply remain silent witnesses to a time when this place was a lake fed by the Sachab River. The extreme dryness of the Namib, one of the oldest deserts on the planet, has turned them into charcoal statues that seem to defy eternity. The combination of these plant skeletons with the intense contrast of colors creates an almost mystical atmosphere. When dawn turns the giant dunes that surround it orange, Deadvlei is transformed into a scene that seems suspended between the past and a dream, attracting travelers and photographers from all over the world in search of an unforgettable image. Hundreds of kilometers away, another geological and cultural treasure awaits. The petrified forest of Twyfelfontein, declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. Here, time is measured in eras. Among the desert sands and reddish hills lie tree trunks that were fossilized more than 200 million years ago, turned to stone by natural processes that defied the ages. This same enclave is home to one of the largest concentrations of rock art in Africa. Thousands of petroglyphs, animal figures, human footprints, and mysterious symbols were engraved into the rock by ancient sand hunter-gatherers. Each stroke is a message from a distant past, a chronicle of the spiritual relationship between those peoples and the land that sustained them. This archaeological and geological site offers a window into Namibia's ancient history and culture, inviting travelers to immerse themselves in the fascinating blend of past and present in this stunning natural environment. But if there is one truly amazing and mysterious place in Namibia, it is the Skeleton Coast. This desolate stretch of coastline, located in western Namibia, is known for its surreal landscape and enigmatic name. The Skeleton Coast owes its name to the numerous shipwrecks that have occurred along its dangerous waters over the centuries. The remains of shipwrecks are scattered along the coastline, creating an intriguing but desolate landscape that seems straight out of a nightmare. This inhospitable coast is known for its extreme weather conditions and treacherous waters, which have been responsible for countless maritime tragedies throughout history. Rusty shipwrecks and whale skeletons are scattered across the beach, reminding us of the harsh reality of life at sea. In addition to shipwrecks, the Skeleton Coast is also home to abundant wildlife, including seals, seabirds, and whales, which find refuge in its cold, nutrient-rich waters. Few people know that inland, The fog that covers the coast can extend for dozens of kilometers, fed by the cold Benguela current. This constant mist, called Kolmanskop, has allowed plants and small animals to survive in an otherwise completely arid environment. In some places, microscopic water droplets are captured by lichens and shrubs that literally drink from the fog, a phenomenon unique on the planet. Among the wonders that take advantage of this humidity is the welwitschia, an almost mythical plant that can live for more than 1,000 years with only 2 huge leaves that regenerate endlessly, considered a true living fossil of the plant world. It is also home to extraordinarily adapted species, such as the fog beetle, which climbs the dunes at dawn to collect tiny drops of dew on its shell, becoming one of the few animals capable of drinking water in the middle of such an extreme desert. Despite its grim reputation, the Skeleton Coast attracts adventurers and intrepid travelers from around the world who seek to experience its unparalleled beauty and unique atmosphere. However, exploring this remote location is not without risk, and visitors must take extra precautions due to the extreme conditions and lack of infrastructure in the area. Just in case, the country's authorities have created 2 access gates where all vehicles must register when entering and leaving, so that rescue teams can be sent in case someone breaks down or gets lost. The fact that it is the second least densely populated country in the world and the least populated in Africa has a very positive side, as it makes it a wildlife sanctuary. This is surely what I love about this country, as you don't need to visit a reserve to see animals. Instead, in Namibia, from south to north and vice versa, traveling along the endless dirt roads, you will come across a wealth of wildlife. Among the most striking animals in Namibia are the desert elephant, known for its ability to survive in arid and desert conditions, the black rhinoceros, which is unfortunately endangered, and the desert lion, a lion that, like the desert elephant, has developed unique abilities to survive and adapt to deserts as lethal as those in this country. Etosha National Park is one of Namibia's most iconic destinations and one of the largest and best-known national parks in Africa, where these and other animals can be observed. Leopards still inhabit both the park and the surrounding area. Although they are difficult to spot, Namibia is the country with the largest population of free-roaming cheetahs. That is why it is important to know where you are camping if you are traveling independently, as you may encounter any of the animals you are now learning about. Even more caution should be exercised in the far north of the country, as the Kunene River area is infested with giant crocodiles. Upon reaching the coast, the lagoons will treat us to a beautiful view of pink flamingos. And along the Skeleton Coast that you knew before, we may also encounter the huge colony of sea lions at Cape Cross. But perhaps even stranger than encountering a tribe smeared in reddish colors in the middle of the world's oldest desert is discovering a little piece of Germany within this unusual country. This happens in the city of Swakopmund, a kind of Germany in Africa, and undoubtedly the most charming city in Namibia. This city is a former German colonial town on the southern Skeleton Coast, a place that transports us to any German city, and is hard to believe is surrounded by dunes and desert. Its relaxed atmosphere, pleasant promenade, and shops and restaurants are a kind of oasis in the desert that is well worth enjoying. Another place that is even more amazing than Swakopmund is the village known as the last gas station in the desert, or Solitaire. A town that looks like something out of the American Wild West, with just a gas station, a shop, a restaurant, and a hotel, as well as a bakery that boasts the best apple pie in the country. Solitaire has become a unique landmark in the middle of Namibia's vast desert landscape. For decades, this small town was the last place to stock up on supplies before venturing into the Namib desert, which is why it is known by this nickname. Although the gas station is still in operation, its decor evokes the atmosphere of an old Western movie. Beyond these picturesque corners, there is a place that seems frozen in time, Kolmanskop, Namibia's most famous ghost town. Founded in the early 20th century during the Diamond Rush, Kolmanskop became a prosperous German settlement with a hospital, school, theater, and even a bowling alley. However, When the diamond deposits were exhausted, the inhabitants abandoned the place within a few decades. Today, the Bavarian-style houses are invaded by dunes, and the sands of the namib seep through windows and doors, creating an almost surreal landscape, where pastel-colored walls contrast with the golden dust of the desert. Walking through its half-buried buildings, listening to the silence broken only by the wind, and watching the dunes slowly devour the old streets is an experience that is as disturbing as it is fascinating. A veritable open-air museum that tells the story of the transience of wealth and the relentless force of nature. If you've come this far, you'll probably want to know how to get to Namibia and make the most of this wild and fascinating country, as well as getting to know the Himba people up close. That's why Uncensored World brings you all the information you need to plan your trip. To get there from America, the most frequent flights depart from New York or Mexico City to Windhoek, the capital of Namibia, with stopovers in Johannesburg or Frankfurt. The total flight time is usually around 24 hours, depending on the connection. From Europe, for example, Madrid, flights usually take around 14 to 15 hours with a stopover in South Africa or Germany. In all cases, it is recommended to book in advance to get the best prices. Travelers from many countries do not need a visa for short stays of up to 90 days, but it is always a good idea to check the current regulations before traveling. The local currency is the panga, although US dollars are widely accepted in hotels, safari agencies, and tourist shops. The exchange rate is usually approximately $1 to 14.5 panga, although this may vary. Something that few people know is that Namibia is one of the cheapest countries to travel in Africa and in the world. For example, a coffee in a local cafe usually costs less than $1. Dinner for two in a mid-range restaurant can cost around $20, and a night in a mid-range hotel usually costs less than $30. Added to this is the fact that it is one of the safest destinations for safaris and touring the country. Namibia is considered one of the safest countries in Africa for travelers. Unlike many other countries on the continent, it has low rates of crime against tourists, and petty theft tends to be concentrated in specific urban areas, mainly in Windhoek and some areas of Swakopmund. National parks and safari areas, such as Etosha or the Namib Desert, are particularly safe, with constant surveillance and strict regulations for visitors. Most tourists can travel on the main roads and enjoy safaris without incident, as long as they follow the recommendations of the local authorities and take basic precautions, such as not leaving valuables visible in vehicles. In addition to this, getting around Namibia is also quite easy. The main roads are paved, and buses cover the routes between cities. However, to explore national parks or deserts, renting a 4x4 vehicle is the most recommended option, with prices ranging from $40 to $50 per day. There are also domestic flights connecting Windhoek with tourist destinations, such as Sossusvlei, Swakopmund, or Etosha, which are ideal for saving time. Safaris are the country's main attraction and can be booked with local agencies or directly at the lodges within the parks. A full-day tour in Etosha usually costs between $50 and $100 per person, including a guide and transportation. In addition, Namibia offers the possibility of self-guided safaris for those who rent their own vehicle, allowing for a more flexible and personalized experience. Although if you decide to do so, we advise you to pay close attention. Among the main attractions of a trip to Namibia, visiting the Himba is probably the most appealing cultural experience of all. To do so, there are guided tours that include transportation, basic accommodation, and a local guide, with prices ranging from $50 to $150 per person, depending on the duration and level of exclusivity of the tour. It is important to remember that you must always act with great respect, as the Himba may show their hospitality by offering accompaniment, allowing you to take photographs, and even sometimes offering to spend the night with one of their wives. But you should not expect intimate contact or situations outside of the cultural norm, as this is not customary, and respect for their customs is essential. In Namibia, combining desert adventure, wildlife viewing, and encounters with ancestral cultures such as the Himba makes any trip a unique, safe, and affordable experience in an incomparable natural setting. At Uncensored World, we hope that this tour of fascinating Namibia has been as exciting for you as it has been for us. With that in mind, and considering the effort that goes into making these videos, we would love for you to leave us a like and your comments. It's the best way you can help us continue to bring you the best content every week. If you enjoyed this video and are not yet subscribed, don't wait any longer and do so now by activating the bell so you don't miss the fascinating videos we make every week. Videos like this one that you can enjoy now to discover one of the most fascinating corners of the planet. Don't miss out and discover the wonders this place has to offer.